Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Gukarastvandhakaro vai Rukarastanivartakaha Andhakara nirodhitvat Gururitya vidhiyate Sadashiva samarambham Shankaracharya madhyamam Asmadacharya paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we are doing the topic, the importance and necessity of Atma Vichara, of self-inquiry, and something that we have to do it individually. The Shastra and Ishvara and the Guru and the teaching all help us with it, tells us exactly what to think about and how to think about it, but we have to think about it, because without that, the last mile, so to speak, of this connection will not be finished. It has to be done individually, and that was really the message of the Gita also, as you know, that Arjuna had to do it himself. Just sort of doing a touching of his head with the wand and saying bless you is only just the beginning. But now the blessing has to be translated into thinking on the part of Arjuna. And so similarly here also in the Shastric teaching, we have to take responsibility for finishing the job. So that was the topic that we took, and I think we will conclude it today. So within that, we saw just a very quick revision on where we are up to this point. We felt that the Atma Vichara is necessary because of the Tadatmya Adhyasa. Tadatmya Adhyasa means a self-superimposition. You can have a superimposition on a thing, like the traditional snake and rope example. But if the interesting thing is that you can actually do Tadatmya Adhyasa, not idam Adhyasa, not this but I. Well, that's also possible. And we saw how that is possible. We took various examples, and the one example we took was that of watching a movie and then relating to some character in such an intense way that the pleasures and pains as experienced by that character becomes yours. Similarly, this is very common that if you see, supposing a child who's sick in the hospital or something like that, you sympathize with the child, and I hope that everything is going to be okay. But if it is your child, then through this identification of my child or my grandchild, your sukha dukkha, your pleasure and pain becomes more intense. So similarly, here we saw that the nature of the Tadatmya Adhyasa is identification, and in this particular case, an identification with a role that we are playing in this life. And so that, as we saw in the way we structured it, that the play of this life, the material for the play, the structure of the play, the all of the all how the play is going to play out, all of that has been predetermined, more or less. And so we are now involved with it. But due to whatever reason, and the reason here primarily is that we have drugged ourselves into forgetting exactly who we are. And the difference is that it never was drugged. We are already drugged, and also the ignorance, the self-ignorance is anadi. But seen in the standpoint of a play, you can say that supposing you started to play and you have played that role before, not a perfect example, but to visualize. But on this particular day, you have become intoxicated, and therefore you have forgotten your own natural swarupa, your own beingness, and now you are identified with the character. So there we saw that this identification is kind of gripping you, like with three nails that you have to take out. So what we saw was sahajam, the natural one, then karmajam, which is based on your karma, and the most important one, which is bhrantijanyam. So the bhrantijanyam is common to everyone because it is some kind of an illusory thought that you have. You have nothing to do with it, but you have become one. And exactly in what form you have become one is the karmajam, is because or based on your karma, etc. So this truth, the Shastra points out, kind of gets hidden from you. So the truth of your own Swarupa is hidden from you through some kind of a veiling Shakti, Maya Shakti, veiling Shakti. All the Upanishads point this out. The very famous Taittiriya Upanishad Vakya, which I can just chant the 3 or 4 sentences. Those of you that have taken that will relate to it. So this is the Brahmananda Valli, the beginning of the Brahmananda Valli. And actually the beginning is Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu, but then the mantra itself is Om Brahma Vida Apnoti Param Tadesha Bhyukta Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam Parame Vyoman So Oshnute Sarvan Kamaan Saha Brahmana Vipaschiteti. So this is the Tadesha Bhyukta. So this is the section of the Upanishad, and so there the important sentence for our purposes is Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam Parame Vyoman. So the Satyam Jnanam Anantam is the reality, that is the truth. Brahma means here's the Atma, but the one who sees, one who knows this, Yo Veda. How does one know it? Nihitam Guhayam Parame Vyoman. Means it is hidden inside your own mind. Hidden inside our own minds. What? So I think in the context of the example of a play, you can make it you can appreciate it. And that means that you are seeing things, but the secret behind the seeing things is missed. So here we can simplify this so that we understand it and we can fully grasp it. Please see, look at this, and that is, so there, as you know, I'm going to combine several things that we have talked about elsewhere, and hopefully you can gather it in your mind as we unfold this truth. That what you need to do to ascertain the existence of something is to know how the thing exists. What is unique about that thing that you are looking for? Because if you're not sure of that, you'll never find it. Never find it. You have to know exactly where you're going. What is it that you're looking for? Like, for example, Swami Maheshananji gave this example. Supposing you go to a station, a railway station, or to an air, you know, local airport, and then you say, "Can you please? I need to get a ticket." So the question is, where to? I don't know. What kind of a conversation will follow, you can imagine. The person will say, you need to check yourself into a mental hospital. You want a ticket for something that you don't know where you're going? How can I know it? How can you know it? What are you talking about? So similarly here, we are looking for something, but we don't know what it is that we are looking for. So in order to ascertain what you're looking for, there are two factors required. So it is called Lakshana Pramanabhyam Arthasiddhi. Arthasiddhi means that something which is looked for is established. Siddhi means it is successfully ascertained. Arthasiddhi by how? Lakshana Pramanabhyam. So two things are there, Lakshana and Pramana. Lakshana means something which is unique, which is not there in anything else. This is called Lakshana. Like, for example, supposing you go to the airport and you say, you know what, I need to go to San Jose. And so now there are several San Joses in the world. Two very famous ones are the ones right here in California, close to us where I am, and one in Costa Rica. And if it is purely at the subject of the ticket master, they will ask you, which San Jose are you talking about? Do you know this was a real case? I'm telling you, I think many of you may have heard of this. This is about, I don't know, 12, 15 years ago. So there was a guy who had gone to Los Angeles, and he was coming back to Oakland here so he was from Oakland, and he had gotten a one-way ticket, and on coming back he was traveling from San Francisco, from Los Angeles to Oakland. So he got a ticket to Oakland, and he went to the gate, and he was busy with his cell phone and all those kinds of things, and then finally the announcement was made. The plane for Oakland is ready to board. Please make sure you So he goes there and he sits down. This is a real case, I'm telling you. I'm not making it up. And he just had a carry-on. That's all he had. He didn't check the baggage or anything. So he sits down. An hour, then 2 hours have passed by. And he says that something is funny. Oakland should have come by now. So he calls the flight attendant and he says, shouldn't we be reaching Oakland by now? And she says, sir, what are you talking about? Auckland in New Zealand is 14 hours away. We are only an hour and a half into it. He says, where are we going? She says, we're going to Auckland. Aren't you going to Auckland? He says, no, I'm going to Oakland. So the story goes, the fellow goes 12 or 14 hours to Auckland. He has no clothes with him. He has to go, it's a very cold time there. He has to buy something, stay in a hotel for overnight and get his ticket back. I don't know whether he had to pay for it or something. So the Lakshana and Pramana Bhyam both have to be very precise. You cannot make any mistake. You cannot be Auckland or Oakland. So this is called Lakshana. So San Jose, you have to say San Jose, California. That's number one. The second one is that in order to establish the identity of the thing, in order to accomplish Artha Siddhi, in order to accomplish what you want to do, in order to reach where you want to go, you need to have the right pramana. So we have seen all the pramanas, pratyaksha, anumana, arthapatti, etc. And so first thing is lakshana must be there and pramana must be there. Both have to be there. Okay? Now, just look at this. If you are seeing, if you're working in a play, if there a play is going on, not you are working, but let's say there is a play going on, the most obvious experience is pratyaksha pramana. Just by looking at the play, you can tell whether it's a comedy or a tragedy. Is it a laughing kind of a sitcom, or is it something serious? So you can just tell that. Okay. Now let's carry this further. This is an example that I think I've given you a few times before. You may recall, and something that I think about. It's a good example. The example is that of a woman who plays a role in a play, and she has two daughters. One is relatively young, 3 years old, 4 years old. The other one is one who is not completely grown up. She may be 9 or 10 years old. These are the two daughters. And normally she can find a babysitter for them. On this day she could not find a babysitter. So she goes there, and then on the way she's talking to both the girls. Okay? And only the 9-year-old one is really listening. The younger one is not really paying that much attention. She's playing with some toys or something. What she tells her kids are, they listen, this is a kind of a rough play, and I actually play the role of a battered woman who's being slapped around by her husband, and that is part of the play, and so please don't be disturbed about it, and I would like you to just sit on the side of the stage and just do your homework, and it'll take me about an hour and a half, and then I will come back. I'll get you back. So they started doing this, and so sure enough, the play starts, and the 3-year-old sees that her mom is crying, and this man is beating her up. She is very perturbed. So this is called Pratyaksha Pramana. Pratyaksha Pramana means that what she sees, which is the truth, it's not as though it is a make-believe. They are not laughing about it. It's a serious play where there is an angry person who is slapping her and this woman is just crying and cowering. So this young girl rushes up. She gives up her crayons or whatever else she was playing with, rushes up to the stage and clings to her mom and says, "Mom, what's happening to you? Who is this guy? Why is he beating you up?" This is called Pratyaksha Pramana. And so forget about the consequences of this make-believe scene. Now look at the 9-year-old. The 9-year-old cringes a little bit. Cringes. She doesn't want her mother to be beaten up by anyone. But her mother has told, this is a play and do not be perturbed by it because that's not me. That is just a make-believe. And as you know, I am a happy person. I willingly am playing this role. And after this brief interval of this violence is done, I'll be back again and I'll be happy and I will collect my paycheck and we'll go to dinner out with your dad and all four of us. So this woman, this girl rather, this 9-year-old girl has not a Pratyaksha Pramana, but there is a more superior Pramana which is called Arthapatti Pramana. Arthapatti Pramana. Because different Pramanas to be used. So the Arthapatti Pramana is more than Pratyaksha Pramana. So we saw this, and for those of you that you did the Brahmasutra Bhashya classes, there we saw that the Arthapatti Pramana, really all of these Pramanas, but especially the Arthapatti and Anumana. So Anumana means a reasonable conclusion, and Arthapatti means postulation. And the difference between them is that Arthapatti is not based directly on Pratyaksha. Not directly based. How? So we saw there are two examples. One that is traditionally used in the Shastra and the other one that Swami Paramarthananda had given as part of his talks on Brahma Sutra, and I made a note of it. That struck me as something worth talking about. So let me give you both the examples. The traditional example of Arthapatti Pramana. So by the way, before I go into that, what we talked about in the Brahma Sutra Bhashya is that the Pramanas can be either Laukika Pramana or Shastrika Pramana. Laukika means the one that we can experience in our life directly. And we will give you examples of that. And then you have Shastrika Pramana, where you don't experience it, but somebody tells you the truth about it. So keep an eye on the two types of Laukika and Shastrika. Okay, now let's go back to the example of Laukika Arthapatti Pramana. So two examples. One is This is the traditional Shastric example. It could be anywhere, but this example is given for a pandit, a pujari at your local temple. And this pujari is pretty hefty. He's quite overweight and he's heavy. But during the day when you see him in the temple, he does hardly eats anything. And even if you give him something, he will just take a little bit of it, as though he's a very careful about the food and he doesn't really overeat at all and so on. So something is not quite right. Whenever we see him during the day, while he's working in the temple, he doesn't seem to eat much, and whatever he eats is very little. She shows a certain discipline, and yet the guy is so overweight. So you know what? The facts are facts, which is he's overweight. You cannot be overweight until you overeat. Cannot be done any other way. You cannot get overweight by just drinking water. No, not possible. You must be eating more than what you should. So the conclusion is, as soon as he go home or before he comes to the temple in the morning, he has some heavy breakfast and dinner. And he probably has, and he might even sneak in through the back door and eat something that not in our presence. That's the only way you can tell about it. This is called Laukika Arthapatti. So now the difference between Anumana and Arthapatti, make a distinction. I'm going into some detail. I didn't mean to do this, but might as well just finish it. The difference between Anumana and Arthapatti is, in an Anumana, you see the guy eating food. And in Arthapatti, you don't see him eating the food. There is no direct pratyaksha of him eating anything. So you have to, this Anumana is a special kind. It's called postulation. Because there is no other way to gain weight, you have to conclude that he must be eating even though I do not see that person eating. So this is one Laukika example, Arthapatti example. The other example is the one given by Swami Paramarthananda, which is, when you went to bed, the streets were dry. When you got up in the morning, unbeknownst to you, as you go out to collect your newspaper, you find that the newspaper is soaking wet and there is puddles of water everywhere on the street as far as you can tell. So you can say this is not a question of my sprinklers or anything like this. This is really heavy rain. So if you see your street flooded, even though you did not see the rain falling, see, that's the difference. If you see the rain falling, then if it gets wet, then you can do the extrapolation that yes, of course, because of the drainage system not being very good, as it happens from time to time, you can have heavy rain. But supposing you didn't even see the rain, but the fact remains, you cannot wish away the fact that it's flooded. Then you can say, aha, this is Arthapatti. He's got Arthapatti, and this is Laukika Arthapatti. Now, corresponding to the Laukika Arthapatti is the Shastrika Arthapatti. So this has to be appreciated. So in the Shastrika Arthapatti, the elements of the pramana remain the same. The elements of what is pramana, what is pratyaksha, what is arthapatti, what is upamana, what is anupalabdhi, what is shabda pramana. All of 6 of these pramanas, the elements of them are common between Laukika pramana and Shastrika pramana. They are the same. So, how does that help us in our analysis of self-inquiry? This is how it is done. Okay, so now we can close the loop and go forward. Okay? So, we saw in the last few classes that I take myself to be a continuously changing person like the rest of the things that I see in the world. I am no different. Not different. I could remember when I was a very young boy, and then I became older, and then I became bigger, and then I became an adult, then I became a middle-aged person, now I'm getting old. One stage leads to another, changes. If I look around the world, nothing seems to be the same, everything seems to be changing. I'm also changing, the world is also changing. And if you conclude this is the pratyaksha pramana. Right? So this is what you see, this is how you describe, and you are accurate about it. It's not as though you are fooling anyone. So if this young 3-year-old saw her mother being beaten and slapped around, that's how it was. So she's not making it up. Her eyes are open and she notices it. Her mind says, yes, that's my mom. My nice mom is getting beaten. Why? I've never seen it like this. It's pratyaksha. So similarly, what I find is, like a 3-year-old, spiritually 3-year-old, I see the world changing and I see myself changing. I see my body changing. I see that my prana, my breathing, my physiological aspects of the body is changing. Sometimes it is well, sometimes it is not well, sometimes I'm, I was born an asthmatic. I was very asthmatic when I was young. My gosh. Every disease is a difficult one. Asthma is a very difficult one. How I could not breathe at all. It was, sometimes I would close the door so no one else can see me and suffer, seeing me suffer. And they weren't, and nowadays there are a lot of good medicines. In those days there were no medicines. My grandfather, my maternal grandfather, who I was used to live with in Amritsar, he was, in addition to a cloth businessman, he had his own, the whole family had a factory for weaving clothes, making out of yarn, and so that was his profession. And he was also a very consummate carpenter in his village days, early on. I never saw that. He was also a very good homeopathic doctor. And later on, he became a teacher of Vedas. And anyway, so that was him. He could not really help me at all with homeopathy. He used to get so frustrated that, my gosh, I can give good medicines to a lot of other people, but my own grandson I cannot do. So really, that was, I think for the first 15, 16 years, I had very severe asthma. And then I slowly outgrew it. And oh, now, if I get a very bad cold, it turns into some kind of a secondary infection. I can still struggle, but not that frequently. Anyway, prana is a problem. Changing. Sometimes I'm okay, sometimes I'm not. Then certainly your mind. In the morning you are nice and peaceful, and then you find that you forgot to pay a bill, and then the person threatens to cancel it, and you're unhappy about yourself. Why did I do this? And so your mind is unhappy. Sometimes your mind is happy. Mind is changing. This is exactly what our status is. This is pratyaksha pramana. And this is exactly how I see the play of life. I'm participating in a play of life, but the difference is I don't see it as a play. I see it as the only reality that I know of. So what play are you talking about? If I go to a play, I can see it's a play, but life is not a play for me. This is myself. I get really sick. I get really unhappy. So what play? This is not a play. I don't see it as a play. Don't. So here, the Shastric pramana, arthapatti pramana, is to be heeded. It has to be listened to. The Shastra says, I know this is not pratyaksha, but there is something else going on. Just like you tell the 9-year-old, yes. Now, the Shastra will not be able to teach this to the 3-year-old. 3-year-old cannot see arthapatti pramana. Can only see pratyaksha pramana. Why not? Because in order to appreciate arthapatti pramana, you must have grown your thinking to a point where your experience and understanding both are making you qualified to understand. And that's not possible in the 3-year-old. There's nothing strange about it. You cannot do it. You try to reason with the 3-year-old and say, no, baby, it's your mom is okay. She says, what mom is okay? What are you talking about? I don't want her to be okay or anything. She's crying. Don't tell me about she's okay. So the laughter behind this is not known to her. This is exactly our situation. We experience life and we are very much affected by it. And the script of the play is not pleasing to me. If somebody says, you're just playing just a role. What role are you talking about? I don't want this role. Okay, what role do you want? Well, I want the role to be one who is never in sorrow, never always happy, born to be happy. You cannot be born to be happy. You have to come out of your mother's womb. That process itself will make you cry. How can I make you happy at that time? Well, I don't care. Okay, as soon as okay, fine, I understand I won't be happy, but later on I should be immediately happy. How? How are you going to be immediately happy? Because as a baby, you're going to be hungry, you're going to be thirsty, all kinds of problems. So, pratyaksha means no role can be created for you where you are completely satisfied. But the fact of the matter I'm telling you is, if you see you are not the role you are playing, it's a different matter altogether. How is it that I am not playing a role? Then what am I? Who am I? Ah, glad you asked. Because there is something who is unique. Unique? How? You take yourself to be part of the world where you are also changing. You are also affected. That is a mistake. You are taking your role to be yourself. Yes, so what else can I do? Let me tell you. There is something unique who takes the role but is not part of the role. You are the one who sees the state of your body. Now I am young. You are the same person who sees the body changing. Now I am a toddler. Now I am a teenager. Now I am going to college. Now I am a middle-aged. You are the same conscious entity that looks at your prana. I am sick. My nose is blocked. My digestion is affected. No, my digestion is now okay. You are the same person that assesses, I am not happy. My team lost. That person said something intolerably bad to me. Now I'm happy. My daughter just got engaged. Same person. I am the same conscious entity that is a dreamer. Same conscious entity which is a waker. Same conscious entity who is devoid of any thoughts or forms in deep sleep. Same conscious entity. Don't you see this fact? Can you deny this? Can you contest it? You can't. This is the Shastric Arthapatti. So the Shastric Arthapatti is exactly like opening the door in the morning and seeing that your entire driveway is drenched in water and your newspaper has been ruined. And there's puddles of water on the entire street. It's a fact. Undeniable fact. So now you have to work backwards from the undeniable fact and figure out the best possible reason why this might have happened. This is called Laukika Arthapatti. And the Shastrika Arthapatti is, it's an undeniable fact that you are the same person who is observing all the changes in your life. Everything, including your own body, your own mind. Can you contest it? Do you deny this? Is it possible to do it? No. It's a fact. But it had never been pointed out before. You have never really confronted it. Do it now with your Atma Vichara. And if you confront it and you explore it, you will see the reality of this Arthapatti. Right now you may have some doubts about it. Yeah, I think I can see it, but why is it that I'm changing? You are not changing, I told you. Anything which is observed cannot stay the same. And the observed is not the observer. And the observer is not the observed. It cannot change. It's a clear viveka. It's a clear distinction. Atma Anatma Viveka. This is the Arthapatti. And what you have to see is that all of your experiences, even though they are very strong, they are very persuasive, they are very convincing that I am changing, that I don't have forever to live. All the evidence points out to this. Just so unfortunate that just in the last 1 week, 2 of our friends passed away. Kan Kapoor passed away and Surinder Nagpal, just an hour. And just in the last few years, I can't remember how many, can you imagine how many funerals I've attended? And I'm also getting old. So all the evidence is that we are here for a very short time. So you can say, how can Shastra say this when there is such overwhelming evidence about the mortality of the jiva? Shastra laughs and says, no, it's not the mortality of the jiva, of the Atma. It's the mortality of what you take yourself to be. Really? How can I be immortal? It's a fact that I have to explore. It's a fact. It's an arthapatti. The pramana is completely different. It's not a pratyaksha pramana. And all I need to do is to become a 9-year-old, which means I have to grow up. And I have to think. I have to become mature. And I have to explore the nature of Paramatma, the nature of Ishvara, which is nothing but myself alone. Right now I deny it. Oh, I'm just a small person. Paramatma cannot be me. It is you. And it will only be you appreciated if you understand how. And I think I gave you the example in the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. It says that in the, what does it say? Mattaf paramanasti sutrena manigana iva. Anyway, I don't remember the exact Sanskrit words. I think I talked about it in the last couple of classes. So here, as you know, the 7th chapter is the beginning of the discussion about Parameshvara, about Ishvara. First 6 chapters is about the Jiva, so Tvampada. But the next 6 chapters is about Tatpada, Ishvara. So there he says, and as part of that whole discussion, there's so much of it, beautiful, that if you see a garland of pearls, a garland of pearls, or diamonds even, let's say diamonds, a necklace of diamonds. Not a garland, but it's a necklace. So diamonds have a very peculiar quality to them. They are shining with very little light on them. They have such a beautiful quality within themselves that they scatter the light falling on them to such a degree that they seem to glow on its own, relatively speaking. You have to have some light falling on a diamond necklace, but the diamond has the quality of really amplifying and reverberating the lights on it. And it is very impressive, because we are all taken by things that shine. We are all somehow, as human beings, so whenever there is some kind of a fireworks, people just go crazy. Oh, look at this fireworks. All happening within seconds, but you just are taken up. So similarly, a necklace of diamond, you are taken up by the very shine of the diamonds. It's called mani. Mani means precious jewels. So Krishna says that on the other hand, no one thinks about the string going through the diamond holes that holds it together, without which the diamonds will be scattered. No one thinks about this. You're only taken up by the pratyaksha. This is all what life is all about. If we can understand what is holding all this whole thing together, unchanging by itself, unmoving, present everywhere. If you want, we can just do a meditation to kind of wrap this up. This is what self-inquiry is all about. It is to really capture the truth revealed by the arthapatti. That's the pramana. And the reason for that is, we can make sure that it is understood that way. The reason for that is that the Atma is avyakta. It is not something which is visible to you. And we should be happy that it is not visible to you, because whatever is visible to you will go away. But the one which is constantly looking and never really visible, it is the visibility, the content of the visibility which never changes. That has to be me. That Sakshi has to be me. So maybe what we can do is to wrap this whole thing up with a short meditation. We have maybe about 15 minutes, so just a very short meditation, 20 minutes. And then with that, our small topic of the necessity and importance of self-inquiry based on the pramana, based on the arthapatti pramana, has to be appreciated, and if one does, then I'm free. So let's do that. Turn off these bright lights. Want to make yourself comfortable. I'm going to bring my laptop in the next half a minute. I'll be right back. नमस्ते अस्तु भगवन् विश्वेश्वराय महादेवाय त्र्यम्बकाय त्रिपुरान्तकाय त्रिकालाग्निकालाय कालाग्निरुद्राय नीलकण्ठाय मृत्युञ्जयाय सर्वेश्वराय सदाशिवाय श्रीमन्महादेवाय नमः। It should be understood that by ourselves we can never know the self, the Atma. We never have, are not doing it now, and will never by ourselves. We should see the reason for it. My ability to know anything is within the realm of things that I can objectify. Whether there is life on different planets, whether certain mysterious diseases can be conquered, whether one can extend life by another 10 years, ways to be healthier, anything. The past, historical lessons, fears of the future, anything is only possible through what I objectify. My assessment of who I am, where I came from, what my future is, what things hold in promise for me, is only possible by me by observing and manipulating things that I see and I can extrapolate. But the Shastra points out none of that is either useful or everlasting. Instead, it points out a unique conscious entity that I am. It is the same conscious entity which pervades the entire cosmos. It is unique and unlike anything that I can know by myself. It is immortal. It never was born, always has been. It is present throughout. There is no place where it is not. It has no form or a body. It is like space, present everywhere. It always is. And its nature is knowledge, awareness. I know. I know. I know. Don't you see this is your nature? Have you ever been where you didn't know? Can't you see this is not a quality of yours? It is your own nature. I am. I know. I am. Sat and Chit. And when does it end? Do you ever recall where it began? You can't. You can never say, I, the consciousness, began at such and such time. You are the consciousness that assesses all times. But you are the very basis of thinking. Your consciousness has always been there. Not even your consciousness. You, the consciousness. You, the Chit Swarupa. I am. I know. This is a truth. And it's a never-ending truth. Does it have any boundaries? Can it have any boundaries? No. Sat Satyam Jnanam Anantam. No Antam. Can we know this by ourselves without the help of the Shastra? No. Shastra is like a mirror that shows what I am. Without the Shastric mirror, the Shastric Arthapatti Pramanam, I can never grasp my own truth. But the Shastra has given us a clear idea of who we are. Our job is to complete this vision without any doubts. And the more clarity we have through our own effort, our own thinking, our own inquiry, the clearer this picture will be. But whether the picture is clear or not doesn't matter. I already am what I want to be. Sat, Chit, and Ananda. We pray to Ishvara to grant us the wisdom and the maturity to understand the Shastric Arthapatti Pramana. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shivaya. Namah Shivaya. Namah Shivaya. Namah Shivaya. Namah Shivaya. Om. 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 Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Asato ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Good to see you all. Wonderful that you attended this class. And with this, we completed a topic which was the necessity and importance of Atma Vichara, of self-inquiry. So with that, this subtopic is now over. And from next week, I will take up a new topic. I have a couple of ideas that I'm still debating between them. So without announcing it, I look forward to seeing you, and we will begin a new topic from next week on. Okay. Pannabhuva. Is Shastra Pramana and Shastra Athapatti Pramana the same? Could you please explain? Yes, it is. It is the same. So the Shastra Pramana is the overall Pramana, and the way the Shastra Pramana works is through Arthapatti. Also, one can say that the Shastra Pramana is also a Shabda Pramana. Shabda Pramana. Shabda Pramana, same thing, means something which is said. Something which is... So in that case, we should see that the Arthapatti and the Shabda Pramana are working in conjunction with each other. How? Because, as we have seen, the very famous example that if you know there is a person and you have the pratyaksha of that person, you still may not recognize the true value of that person. We saw what was the example we took? The Deputy Prime Minister of Belgium. I don't know how that came to my mind. But a Deputy Prime Minister of Belgium who has a friend who is your friend. And you had a party and your friend brought this gentleman who you had never met before, and he introduced you to saying, this is such and such who is the Deputy Prime Minister of Belgium. You say, are you kidding me? He's here in my house? Oh, welcome, welcome. Now, how will you look at that person? How will you look at him? I remember this very interestingly enough. One of our friends in San Jose, uh, and her uncle was the Indian ambassador to the U.S. And the gentleman has passed away now. But I met him at Shalini Saxena, her house. This is Shalini Saxena's uncle, and and once I met him, I was very interested in quizzing him about all kinds of stuff. I think there was this Pakistani war going on, and I was asking him about the Pakistani war. Uh, he was not an ordinary person for me. He was a very special, because the Indian ambassador to the US has a lot of knowledge, a lot of power, and just to have the ability, I forgot about everybody else. I was just glued to him. So all of that was through Shabda Pramana. Because if Shalini had not told me that this is the ambassador, I would have just taken him to be another person in the party and said hello to him and then be polite and then moved on to other people. But I didn't. So, therefore, the Shastra tells us the presence of Ishvara in my life and says, do you know who Ishvara is and what Ishvara has done for you and continues to do for you and will do for you? He is the top boss of the whole cosmos. This is the Shabda Pramana. And it's you. You are that person. Can you imagine? What an introduction. And my issue is that it is so heavy for me that I can't grasp it. I'll say, you must be kidding. No. Shastra says, I am not in the business of kidding. I have no reason to kid. Please grow up and understand this. And how it describes the presence of Ishvara as nothing but myself is Arthapatti. You see? So the Shabda Pramana and the Arthapatti Pramana work hand in hand. That it introduces me is Shabda Pramana. But the qualities of convincing me that I am the same person, don't I see it? That I am the same person when I was young, old, etc. Same person. No changes. And it's same for everybody. Is the Arthapatti Pramana. So something like that, both of them working together. Any other questions? I see a couple of new names which I cannot even pronounce the language of. I hope you can understand English, and you must, otherwise you will not be here. Anyway, if you could kindly let me know where you are tuning in from, and I would appreciate it. You can just send me an email, Vijay Kapoor, VIJAYKAPOOR @gmail.com. I would appreciate it. And in general, I would say, please do write to me from time to time, everyone. Just let me know how you're doing and how you're enjoying the classes. I would appreciate it. Thank you so much, and I would look forward to seeing you next week. Om Hari Om.